Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, How Red Savoy Built a Digital Storefront of the Future, hosted by fastcasual.com and sponsored by Paytronix. I'm Mandy Detweiler, Managing Editor for Networld Media Group. I'll introduce our speakers in a moment, but first I'd like to remind everyone to watch the entire presentation because at the end, you'll have the chance to submit a question and possibly have it answered during our Q&A portion of our webinar. Today, we're going to learn why restaurants are digitizing faster than ever, and we'll hear how one restaurant built their digital storefront for success. Our speakers today will be Ryan DeLillo, the restaurant and convenience store content specialist for Paytronix, and Reed Daniels, CEO of Red Savoy Pizza Franchise Corporation. Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and Paytronix?
Thanks, Mandy. Yes, my name is Ryan DeLillo. I'm a content specialist for Paytronix. Paytronix delivers CRM, marketing automation, and AI-driven insights in one platform to make guest experiences rewarding, building loyalty, triggering repeat business, and driving incremental revenue for restaurants and C-stores. I'm super psyched to be joined by Reed Daniels of Red Savoy Pizza today. So when we get started, Reed, why don't you tell us a bit about Red Savoy and about yourself?
Yeah, so thanks for having us here, Mandy and Ryan. So Red Savoy Pizza, founded in 1965 in St. Paul. In the picture at the bottom is our original location, and it was a dive bar on the east side of St. Paul. And it was been red in the bottom right corner. There are very few pictures of the man. He's kind of elusive, but if you went into his restaurant and his bar, you knew exactly who he was. But he started off as a bartender and a bouncer, and then a bartender, and then bought the bar, and then the pizza place connected, came for sale, bought that and knocked a hole in the wall, and here we are. So started messing with the pizza. But if you can see that top left picture, that's kind of our pizza. It's what we call soda style pizza. Thin crust, passive aggressive pizza sauce, loaded with toppings cut into squares. And we started franchising license agreements in the mid 2000s, kind of cleaned that up at the beginning of 2010, 11, 12. And now we have 18 open with a couple more, with about 6 more in development right now, and expanding probably regionally to start with, unless we have a really great partner in a couple big markets. And then going from there. But, if you see that little shield in the bottom left corner is our mission is to rid the world of skimpy, wimpy pizzas. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is quality and quantity and so that picture in that pizza, the pizza in that picture up there is our house special. It's Red's house special, his signature item, and it's 3.5 pounds on a thin crust. So it's very heavy toppings, and you will not go home hungry.
Oh, that's awesome, Reed. And then what about yourself? How did you come to get involved in Red Savoy?
This was, we were joking a little bit earlier, like I talked to everybody. And so a friend of mine brought me to a networking event as I was starting my company, and I started a digital company back in 2012, and Red Savoy was my first client. And back in the day, there was, we had 7 locations, I think, and 7 or 8 locations, and 3 different POS systems and cash registers at some locations, no digital footprint at all. And so then, kind of found the next problem and to fix. So for a while, it was getting everybody on the same POS system. Then it was online ordering, loyalty, gift cards, and just finding the next problem. And then I was hired on in 2017 as a marketing director, and then promoted to president in 17, and then I bought the brand in 19. So we rebranded. The old logo was 8 fonts and hard to read, and we rebranded in 17 to a more, what I say is like that next evolution for the next 10 to 20 years, hopefully.
Gotcha, Reed. Yeah, I noticed that you touched on graduating from the CMO role to the CEO role, and today we're talking about the guest experience, particularly within the realm of digital ordering. And I'm interested in how your experience as a CMO sort of informed your perspective as a CEO on how to, think through that guest experience.
Yeah, so I think that, when it comes to guest experience, that's what most businesses talk about all the time is like, being customer focused. And, between 2012 to now, but even back to 1965 to now, the digital landscape has completely shifted. There were not computers in 1965. There were not phones, obviously, I'm saying everything that's obvious. But so like what the guest has wanted and how they have chosen to adapt over time, has left some businesses, think BlackBerry, out in, when they don't adapt as fast as other businesses, it left them out in the cold. And so, typically, and I say this often, is when you look at leading a company, there's usually three types of leaders. There is an operations driven leader, that's someone that's used to operating and knows the business inside and out. Then you have a finance driven leader, which is, hedge fund money, institutional investment money that is really numbers focused, and then or sales or marketing focused. And so I fall into that. So what I always look at, and what I went to school for at University of Wisconsin, is I always throw that like Badger plug in there, because
Nice.
Everybody's got to know. But it is why consumers choose what they do, and then how to influence that. And so we look at a lot of different data points, a lot of different like guest experience of like, does this make sense? Or, is this the experience we want to give to the guest every single time? So we're constantly tweaking things and constantly working with you guys on the Paytronix side to say like, hey, how do we optimize our digital experience? How do we, put cross sells in that are working and try to increase that 2% or whatever those little things are. So looking at constantly changing to a constantly changing consumer is where that kind of falls in. And so we are looking to, hire a brand manager here within the next, we're going to be posting it later this week. But like, I think that's the distinction here is, a lot of the companies have like a director of marketing, right? And like we are hiring a brand manager, like and brand, and I talk about it, and, my team usually like gets annoyed by it, but like brand, I think, is the only thing that's going to win long term. You have all these ghost kitchens and everything like that. It is a commodity easily traded. And so being a CMO and then now being CEO is like, I just really focus on brand. And that's how I think we're going to win.
And it sounds like it's about focusing on controlling what you can control. It sounds like the guest experience is constantly in a bit of a flux. Really cultivating a strong brand is going to keep a touchstone to sort of continuously evolve and revert back to. Speaking of brand, can you tell us a bit more about Red Savoy pizza culture? Because as I was researching the brand more, there were some really cool standouts here that I'd love to hear you expand on, particularly what's the deal with the pizza mayor?
So I always laugh because we have done some cool marketing stuff, but Pizza Mayor is like, we have like a little caricature that we use internally that is a caricature of Red, and he would lose his mind if he ever knew that it existed. Red passed in 2017. So that is always fun for me. But the Pizza Mayor, this is where like we want to be nimble still. So we're young, we've been around since 1965, so our product and our ingredients and our everything is tested. The difference here is we're small in terms of like 18 units, currently all in the Twin Cities area. We're expanding to Fargo and Sioux City, Iowa, early next year. But where we think that local pizza place is not dead, but that Pizza Mayor is owning your communities. And so when we have new franchisees that come on, we talk about this a lot, is like, how are you getting involved in your communities? And we talk about like running for Pizza Mayor, but not actually being elected. So when people think of pizza, they think of you, right? So like, think about going to the kids, the high school football games, and going to Chamber of Commerce events, and, going out and being an ambassador for your business. And what happens, we have a couple shining examples of this, but we have, franchisees that are getting called all the time, like, hey, can you cater this? Can you do this? Because they're top of mind because they've done the work. And that's a little bit different than a Jimmy John's, a McDonald's, a Subway, or whatever, where it becomes that like their marketing budgets are significantly bigger than ours. But what we can do is control our grit. It's kind of like game day and being out and foot soldiers in our areas. And those translate to dollars faster and cheaper than traditional big marketing. So Pizza Mayor is about getting involved in your communities. And what we know even as we expand our brand, even the franchisees in their communities are the ones that are to reap all the benefits from the hard work that they do. That's the key. It's they're building their business, and it's about them and their communities, not about Red Savoy Pizza. Red Savoy Pizza, I talk about this, even though it's like a crust and all the toppings. It's like a tortilla chip and the salsa. It's a vessel, right? It's a vessel for their goals. So.
No, you touched on sort of how being a franchise sort of lends itself nicely to ingraining each of your locations in local culture. Can you speak more as to what it means to be a franchise?
Yeah, so franchising is, it's weird when you go to a dinner party or like a cocktail hour. Like, what do you do? Like, oh, I'm, like a franchisor. And people are like, oh, what's that? Like people don't understand what the concept is, even though they understand McDonald's and Subway and all that kind of stuff. So, franchising model is once again, that vessel for a platform for franchisees to expand on. So we know that Red Savoy Pizza and what Red built is the best pizza on the planet. Hands down, I'll put it up against anybody. Our flavor profile is fantastic. When you go, and we talk about this on our website, and we talk about this internally, but if you were to go open your own restaurant, there's a lot of things that you have to do between website and, marketing and menu creation and graphic design and, everything up and down the list. Is when you do a franchise, that system and processes and all of that stuff is there for you. Another thing that works on, so the system, you're buying into a system, and then it's yours to run and operate. Where that really helps is, the second bullet point there is the economies of scale. So when we work with a partner like Paytronix, or specifically in leveraging partnerships of a pepperoni fiasco of 2020, is now our buying power can protect us. Where in 2020, for example, there was a pepperoni shortage after COVID hit in March. Like everything came to a halt. And I don't know if everybody on the call, but for sure I did. I thought that this was going to be 2 weeks. We're all going to like have a slumber party at our home for 2 weeks, and then we're going to be done with this thing. Well, that didn't happen. But what happened in the meantime is all of our production shut down, and we're still seeing the ripple effects of that across society. But one of the things so when pork plants and beef plants all shut down, pepperoni is one of those things that are made from beef and pork. And there was going to be a pepperoni shortage in fall, and we were able to work with in late summer into fall. And so we were able to work with our vendors to say, hey, we need our allocation there, period. Like we have, 14 stores at the time or whatever, and we're going to go through 30,000 pounds or whatever the number was in the next quarter. And we need to make sure like pepperoni is our number one topping, that we're there. Bob's Pizza is my always example of that independent operator. He doesn't have power, right? Like he doesn't have power to go to Hormel or go to, PFG, who's an amazing partner, and say like, hey, no, like we need this. Right. Even though he needs that, right? Bob needs that. But for us at our scale, we're able to leverage those partnerships and they, it's like an insurance policy. So that's where the power of the franchise comes in. And when it comes to like Paytronix is, Paytronix works with smaller, concepts and stuff like that, but their process and technology is built for scale. And so when we get to a scale of, 18 and 20, 50 units, the data and the technology and all of that kind of stuff can really impact and move our business a couple points. And a couple points when we're talking, tens of millions of dollars in a year is a lot of money. And so, we're able to harness the power of some of the bigger players. And, we're even riding the coattails of, some of Paytronix's customers are, Jimmy John's and, Caribou and Panera and all of these things. Like we're benefiting from these bigger players with their technology partners, but we're at the table to have great partnerships. So
yeah. So
and
so now
real quick, the Purple House thing is like,
oh yeah,
we're in it together, right? Like, and this is the franchise piece of it is, where this, you go to McDonald's and there's never a question of like, this quarter pounder doesn't taste like that quarter pounder, right? Regardless of if you like the quarter pounder or not, it's the same. And so like the franchise concept and the franchise rules, give or take, is that we're all in a townhouse association, right? And that's, you can't paint your house purple because it impacts the value of all of the other townhouses. And so that's the cool part about a franchise. And sometimes the part that's a little bit difficult for franchisees is like, just because you want a hoagie doesn't mean that the brand has a hoagie, right? And so, but holistically, with all the data points and everything that we have, we're constantly making our system stronger and smarter and more, lean and mean, especially at our size, to make that townhouse association and the property, your house, the value of your property worth more.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. And it must be an interesting balance to sort of maintain between, trying to support the needs of and desires, preferences, what have you, of the local community, while also kind of maintaining that overall, unity to the brand.
Yeah, and that's for sure. And some brands choose to go very local, even on a franchise concept. One of the things that we've noticed when we've done a lot of research on this is when that happens, there's a lot of slipping and there's a lot of training and there's a lot of ops support and a lot of like menu items and everything like that. We know that 80% of our sales is pizza. And of that, this is what people buy. And then we have really nice accompaniments to that, so that we have a menu mix, but it's not trying to be everything to everyone. That would be one of my biggest takeaways of any conversation I have is when businesses try to be everything to everyone, they often are nothing to nobody.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Makes sense. All right. Well, with Red Savoy Pizza a little familiar to the audience, I want to dive into some discussion on digital ordering. I've supplied three main takeaways here from the Paytronix order and delivery report from this year, just to sort of establish how timely of a conversation this is. We saw from our clients that 33% of all orders on average were received digitally in March of 2022. 55% of all digital orders were for takeout as opposed to delivery or curbside in March 22. And there was a 42% dip in dine-in sales when comparing January 22 to January of 2 years prior. Reed, my question to you is, how are these stats stacking up to what you're seeing at Red Savoy? I see that you've included some Red Savoy stat in particular, but what's sort of the climate around digital ordering there?
So we switched over. We had another party provider, and we popped over, and literally was the week after the pandemic hit in March of 20 that we switched over to Paytronix order and delivery, and our numbers shot through the roof. And that was partially because the technology was better. We had a better integrated solution for the guests to get a rewards account or get their points and all that kind of stuff and redeem rewards when they're checking out. And the climate that happened, right? So obviously COVID in those 2 weeks. That we all thought we were going to just have slumber parties and cook and kumbaya. At the end of that, we had I call them the 11 dark days, and we had 11 days that we were down 30%, 50% or something like that for 11 days. And then we had record April, May, June, July, August, because people are okay, I can only cook at home for 11 days. And now I need some other options. And so for us, we're at, I pulled our March numbers to coincide with this. We're at 42% of orders and 52% of revenue. And so, I think that's the 52% of revenue is the big, or the delta in that is really big. So our average ticket online is over $9 higher than when someone calls to our store, right? So we're at $28 or $37 or give or take, those numbers when people do a to-go order. And with the upselling, and what I call is underwear time, the employee or the customer is sitting in their underwear, not wanting to call, and they're sitting down and just perusing your menu versus when you call someone and say, and you can hear the hustle and bustle in the background, and they're Savoy's, what can I get for you? Right. And you're like, panic, right? It's like the drive-through. Like, so we go through the drive-through. My wife's like, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look at the menu. I don't know what they have. And I'm like, it's McDonald's. How do you not know what you have? Well, when people are doing online, they have the time. Like they can sit in their underwear on their couch and make the decision and yell over to their spouse or yell over to their friend and say like, hey, what do you want? They have wings. Does that sound good to you? Like versus having a human being that you feel like you're interrupting on the phone. And so that time process, and we watch the time that it takes someone to place the order on order delivery to say like, and it's, 4 to 6 minutes, it fluctuates a little bit versus if we took a 4-minute phone call, that is going to cripple our business. Every phone call that we take is going to do that. So as we try to push more and more digitally, we can repurpose our staff inside the restaurant to, when we do have that guest interaction, knock it out of the park. So when we're not so busy answering the phone that when we go to someone's door, we can talk to them. When someone walks into our restaurant, we don't have to be on the phone. We can look them in the eye and say, hey, how are you doing today? And so that the tools of technology, that's what technology I look at as a tool, allows us to be better hospitality providers because we're not in the weeds answering phone calls and stuff like that. Our business is a little bit more delivery. We have never used third party. We just signed a deal with DoorDash to do a self delivery. We won't outsource that piece of our business. I don't want to lose that customer touch point, but we're a little bit more delivery centric, which is, I guess assumed in the pizza space. So.
Two things that I want to touch on there, Reed. The first is I think that there's still some skepticism, particularly among some smaller operators, smaller than Red Savoy Pizza, about the effect that a lot of digitization might have on sort of the personability and the authentic human connection that we're used to with a lot of these local places. And I think you brought up a great point, which is that, taking in orders online versus on the phone not only saves employees time, but it actively allows them to, talk with customers, to be more personable. It frees them up a lot more. A second point, I've been ordering pizza since I was before I was asking my parents to order pizza.
Yeah.
So delivery in the pizza world is nothing new, but I'm wondering what you think has changed since maybe the pandemic, and how has delivery become maybe more important for pizza delivery or more complex? What are sort of the main changes you see on that?
So I think if we go back to the hospitality and I think that this all goes back to being the consumer where they are, right? We got a complaint last night from a customer who said, hey, I ordered on the app and I just said, leave it at the front door and ring the bell. And the driver came in and rang the doorbell and wanted to have a conversation with me. And I'm like, you've listened to me talk for the last 23 minutes, right? I like to talk. I want to know how you are. I really, give a damn about you as a human being. And that's what we're yearning to increase that hospitality. But that's not what they want, right? That's not what the customer said that they wanted. The customer said, I had a long day, leave the pizza on the doorstep. Here's your $5 tip, right? And digital allows us to meet the guests where they are, right? If the guest wants to have a phone call because they're chatty Cathy like me, they can call. If they want to sit in their underwear and order, they can do that too. And so I think the customer has a lot of power these days. And if you don't adapt to how they want to interact with you, then they will choose other options. Right. And so, whether it is, Domino's, and they do a lot of this in terms of a PR space, is tweet a pizza icon and your order will be delivered or whatever, and it's the easy button or whatever. I still think that having your own channel, but now people are going on to DoorDash, for example, and not saying I want Red Savoy Pizza on DoorDash. They're saying, what do I want for dinner? Give me some ideas. And so, meeting them in that marketplace is something that I've fought against for a long time, because I do believe that third party is bad for restaurants holistically. and bad for the consumer. They're paying more for it too. And I've been pretty blunt with them every time we have conversations that I do believe this holistically. But right now, that's what the customer wants. The customer wants to have a directory, peruse through it, make a decision, and move on. And so the delivery piece, the second part to your question is like how delivery has changed. I think that the landscape for labor on it has changed because of the gig working economy and everything like that. So, we just saw legislation that's, the Fed's looking at legislation on whether third-party drivers are employees or independent contractors and everything like that. So that's interesting. But, it's one of those things that you have to look at, like, where's your employee at? Does the employee want to work from 4 to 7 or do they, because they have a scheduled shift, or do they want to be able to turn on the app when they want to work? Right. And so like, it's a constant, it's a constant moving target, but that's the fun part. It's, business is a game and it's fun. And then those are the challenges and things that we're trying to win against every time.
Now, the last thing that I wanted to bring up is the differential that you noted between revenue coming from phoned in orders versus online orders. I'm thinking back to, when I would growing up calling Domino's and placing my order and at the end, the person would mumble like, would you want to add a liter of Sprite and maybe a brownie with that? I probably couldn't understand half of what they said over the din in the background. And I'd be like, no, just put in my order, please. But now on the phone, as you said, on underwear time, just looking through, scrolling endlessly, and an offer comes up that either matches your past order history or seems way more enticing, that's the upselling is way more efficient over the phone. Is that what's kind of accounting for that differential among other things?
So I think that the underwear time, coupled with what I call the drive-through effect, and you go through the drive-through, or you're calling in on Friday night or whatever it is, and you feel like you are imposing, right? And so we're in Minnesota too, so like we're very like we never want to like take the last cookie, right? Like it's like very half polite, right? But in doing so, like you go through the drive-through and you're saying like, oh, I want a quarter pounder, no pickles or onions. And then they're like, and you're like, you're going to screw this up. Okay, I'm going to get chicken nuggets. Okay, because you could hear chicken nuggets, count to 6. I'm going to get that. But what happened is my dissatisfaction increased because what I really wanted was a quarter pounder, no pickles or onions. And so when that happens and we have that awkward interaction on the phone with, call it a Friday night or a Tuesday afternoon when you can hear something's going on, we feel like we're imposing. So we're trying to end the awkward experience. And so we don't really listen when they say the upsell, if the team member does, because we're trying to end the awkward conversation, right? Everybody's seen that sitcom where like there's an awkward situation. You're like, can this be over, please? Like, can we please just be over with this? And that factor of not having to have that awkwardness on when I'm scrolling on my phone, like we're really used to with Instagram and TikTok and all of these things, it's a familiar experience, and that doesn't just. We can avoid the awkward. So I think that the targeted upselling and the way that the technology works for it, as well as meeting the customer again where they are, is the keys for the digital difference of $9 a transaction, which is an extra order cheeseburger or an extra order of wings on every single online order. And we're talking, and this is anecdotally when you're talking a little, a restaurant or one restaurant, or you have 100 restaurants. Like we have hundreds of thousands of transactions a year, and the average being $9 higher. It's not like it's a subset from a Friday night,
right?
Or a Tuesday night. Like this is holistically over the year that it's $9 more. That's where we're focusing our time, is getting people to use online ordering. And when we bring on new stores, the cool part about bringing on new stores is new stores have a very even higher online experience or a high online not delta in their pricing of like how much people spend online, but we're pushing 70% online revenue at these new locations because they're getting trained from the beginning. So on our older locations, people didn't have that option, so they just got used to giving us a call. And now as we transition them over through loyalty, because we have targeted emails and everything like that, trying to incentivize them to use online because we know the value. And then the value to us is not only the $9, it is repurposing our team member to have greater hospitality, right?
Mm.
So it's a twofold, incredibly powerful tool.
Well, nice transition there, adding in loyalty here and bearing in mind the sort of really mutually beneficial interplay between loyalty and online ordering. Some quick takeaways here from the recent Paytronix loyalty report. We've seen that 18 to 30% increase in visits and spend are attributable to loyalty programs. 6% on average difference of loyalty versus non-loyalty in checks. There's a 5 to 17% total revenue driven by the most loyal 2 to 4% of customers. And out of all generations, Gen Z lead in loyalty membership growth. A bit more, I can share a bit more with if anyone has questions on that last metric, but top level Gen Z is just really active from a technology standpoint. They're going to be the most likely to log in, download your app, use the loyalty program consistently, and seek out that value.
I think the key that you just said there is the value, right?
Yeah.
Like what's in it for me, right? Like if I'm going to give you, everybody knows that when you join a loyalty program, you're giving your data over, right? You're buying, that you're able to like all of your online transactions are tied to your account. When you walk in, type your phone number in at checkout, like Walgreens, that's why they ask you every single time, because they're getting, data to ideally use it for good, not evil, but like it is to like make your experience better, right? We got a customer that came in yesterday, or an email that came in and said, hey, you give me a survey at the end of my transaction, you give me free cheese bread, but I'm gluten-free. I don't need this, and I don't like that. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because like our survey tool doesn't give the option of like, hey, we know that you're gluten-free, but our loyalty account does, right? Like, and so like we can meet the guests where we are. It would be really insensitive to look at someone's, not even insensitive, like in terms of a cancel culture, but it also doesn't like meet the customer where they are. If you say like, hey, you're ordering a gluten-free veggie pizza every weekend, would you like chicken wings? Like, probably not, right? And so like, let's use the data points and the technology that we have to make the customer from a one-to-one perspective feel like they're not a number in your program. And that's what we try to do in hospitality in general. And so our technology should do the same thing. And so what Gen Z is, when they're giving your data, they're going to get 6% back, right? So for every $75 you spend, you get $5. That's 6%. They're getting a 6%. It's better than any credit card point that you could ever get. But we're also saying, and we call it thank you rewards, because we're saying thank you for choosing us, because we know you have a ton of options. And it's this symbiotic relationship that I can email you and say, hey, we have a new subscription program. Hey, have you tried our dessert, or whatever it is? And they can get something in return. So we have a closer connection for people that have chosen to have that connection with us.
Yeah. Yeah. But really, I mean, just to double down on that symbiotic connection of, it's a thank you for choosing us, but this data is going back to ultimately benefit you. It's creating a more personalized experience, and both parties win there. So I want to talk about this fantastic Red Savoy Pizza app. Before maybe I pick out some things that I love about it, I'm going to give the floor to you to just talk about the app development process. What were some goals that you had in mind? Maybe touch on any challenges that you overcame, and just some top takeaways from the app design process.
So one of the cool things, and this kind of goes into one of the things that you guys are just announced, was the order experience builder for online ordering. Is like, we don't have the budget to build our own custom app. That being said, we also don't want to look like a 8th grader built it in, remember the old GeoCities websites that, like MySpace, right? And so like our partnership with you guys has been pretty instrumental, because it gives us a canvas to, like, I call it, it's like dancing like in Hitch, the movie with Will Ferrell and Kevin James, I think. Not Will Ferrell, Will Smith, where he's like, no, don't get crazy, just dance right here. And so like the technology and the way that your the Paytronix team has said, like, this is the user experience that we've tested, they've done all of that, so we can skin it with our colors, our icons, our all of that kind of stuff, and get us to market faster, has been really helpful. And then because it's not an idea from me of like, hey, I think that we should have a banner on top. It's like, hey, we know that customers really interact with it a certain way. You guys have a user conference every year that is amazing, but the new launch of a more dynamic app is going to be pretty revolutionary in order for us to put content out there on a regular basis. So like it's one of the things you have real estate, right? And if you can get real estate on someone's phone, some people is like, I'm never going to download an app unless it's TikTok, right? Because that's what I like to do. But if we can get real estate on someone's phone, then we also have the ability to do push notifications. Then we have geofencing. Then we have all of these other tools that as marketers, that allows us to touch the guests as long as we're relevant to them in those. There's sometimes you get into a text program and you're like, okay, I need to hit stop because you are incessant. So we have what we know is push notifications are way more accepted than text messages. Text messages are very invasive. So text messages have to be very on point, where with an app and what it allows us to open is pretty spectacular. So having that real estate on someone's device is important.
And just to clarify something that you brought up earlier, Reed, there, Paytronix offers both branded and customized apps such that you can either build it from the ground up, or in your case, you went with sort of a template. So as you said, you can just dance right there as opposed to dancing all over the place. And
like I said, like we're 18 units, like we are not 1,000 units that has a, $20 million a year tech budget. Right. And so like for us to own it, maintain it, build it, design it, build it, develop it, maintain it, or all of that stuff is not in our wheelhouse. And so like our partnership with you guys has allowed us to get there. And the flexibility that when we are 1,000 units and have that tech budget and we want to, have the phone blow glitter at you, we can build that at that point. Yeah, folks. So to clarify even further, the design in this app has been informed by what consumers want out of restaurant apps. So, you've got things like face recognition on the homepage, right at the very top. As soon as you're into the app, it's got, it welcomes you in, and then you've got your rewards points, total transparency to track where you are in relation to your loyalty program. Then a really nice navigable homepage that shows your order history, your ability to just segue right into an order. Things like the subscription program are plugged right on the front page. And then the order flow, as you can see in the third graphic in from the left, you can browse by locations, select the menu, basket, payment, checkout, just a really simple order flow that taps into what everyone's sort of intuition is around digital ordering. And I think that the key to this and is with this is using your open dining or order and delivery, right? It goes all the way through and it integrates to our point of sale, right? Everybody's gone into a restaurant and they have like 98 tablets in the front, and having the way that we look at the customer flywheel is like, it is trying to be a seamless experience. I've told so many people with amazing ideas from a guest and marketing, everything like that, is like, if it operationally is hard for the team, it's going to be a no-go. And so the fact that it comes in automatically into our POS and injects they get the loyalty account, and then it doesn't hurt the team. It's exactly, what the experience we need. If we went to our operators and said, hey, you're going to have this extra, process that you need to do for loyalty or for online ordering, it would be hard. And so the seamlessness is great. Now, Reed, you mentioned earlier that some people are just hardcore TikTok users, if not anything else, and you may just not be able to convert them to download that mobile app. Red Savoy Pizza has a great online backup of this. This is some screenshots that I took from mobile.
which I consider to be kind of the ultimate test for a website layout, just how pretty it looks on a much smaller screen than a laptop. But as you can see, a really similar idea here. One thing that I wanted to call out just from the top is just how prominent the download the mobile app plug is on this very homepage. It just instantly converts customers, gives them the option for an even better experience. But maybe just talk a little bit about the importance of providing just as much of a seamless experience on a website as opposed to within a mobile app.
So I think the download the mobile app is very in loyalty programs. There are many conversions, right? So it's not just a give us your phone number and you're automatically in. You have to give name, first name, last name, email, whatever. So that process is hard. And then even if we can get someone to SavoyRewards.com and then have them fill out that information, then it's a sticky factor. But when you download the app and the first thing you do is have to either log in or register, we're getting you into the loyalty program right there. So then every time you order, it is tied to your rewards account. You're automatically logged in. You're all of that seamless experience to lower the hurdles that the guest has to do. Everybody's
Right.
gone to a website and your password doesn't work from your password manager. You can't remember if this one has 8 special characters or 9, that type of thing. And so it pushes it there. And so that's a prominent message for us. But then there's some people that just say, I'm in town at a hotel. The guy at the desk told me that this pizza is legit. I'm going to go to their website and I don't want to download their app. I don't want to give, because I'm in town, but I want to try it, but I'm on the go. And they're wanting to be on the go from a mobile experience because they don't want to get on the hotel's Wi-Fi because it's slow and it sucks. And so having a, quick, hey Siri, hey, pizza near me, pulls this up and then can actually walk through the flow. Siri,
Yeah, Siri, see,
she worked. Yeah, right there. Look at that, real time. If I say Alexa or something else is going to go off.
Yeah.
So
Careful.
I apologize for that, but that's the reality. Is so people are using that, pulling up content right away, going to your website, and then we want to transition them into an order flow. And that's for us as marketers and business people, but that's also easy for them, right? If they're hey, how do I jump through all of these hoops? You can check out as guests and all that kind of stuff. We just want to lower the barrier to entry. There's a lot of people that have great products out there, but it's hard. We want to make it as easy as possible for them to give us their money. So
yeah, well, and just to, from my own experience, countless restaurants go on their website, click on the menu, it brings up a separate PDF. Now you've got 2 windows up on your phone. You've got to zoom in on the PDF on your small screen, find something, and then maybe call or see what sort of third party they're using. It's bringing an experience that is almost on par with the mobile app to someone from just a Google or a hey, I won't say the name. Hey Siri.
Yeah. You're going to turn around again.
Right. I turned on mine.
Yeah, there you go.
But just an incredible seamless experience for any Red Savoy pizza person, particularly someone who might just be coming through town.
And I think that what it does, even for our ordering, and this is the 4th picture across where it has catering, apps and wings and pizzas, is we're able to order the things that make sense. So catering is a very different customer, but we put that first and foremost in our things so that everybody that goes to order online has to scroll past it and says, oh, I didn't know they catered. Catering is huge for the restaurant business. And catering is not we're going to do 175 pizzas on Sunday for the Gopher football team, right? As a Badger, that hurts my heart, but I actually like PJ Flex, so it's fine. But catering as itself, people don't even know that what businesses offer that. So when they think of catering, they don't think of pizzas. So we have to do a education piece, and our online ordering helps us with that. They might not go to the catering page, but they will go to order online and see that, and we at least get a touch.
So we've been talking about loyalty programs kind of in the background here. I know we're a little pressed for time here, so I'll just point people to the graphic on the right as just sort of a reference for how we like to think of the structure of a loyalty program. I understand that Red Savoy uses a bankable points program. Your customers are earning points on every dollar. Once they reach 75 points, they get 5 Savoy bucks that they can redeem within a 6-week period. I'm going to segue through here unless you want to add anything in here, Reed.
No, I want to go to just a second point on happy hour real quick.
Yeah.
So we're a very low discount company. So like, it's not like pizza where you're like 2 for $5.99, like that's not our business. But what we did early, it was actually pre-pandemic, is we had a happy hour. It was for from 2 to 5 every day. We'd give $5 off a large pizza, and people would come in and they'd get the deal and whatever. And what we did is we gated that behind the loyalty program as of late 19, right? And so you had to be a rewards member to get that added to your account in order to get the discount, right? And so what we often do is gate offers behind loyalty so that we are getting, as a business, something in return. And so I think that when you go to a happy hour at TGI Fridays or whatever, and they just have a different price to get you in a slow period, they could probably be a little bit more aggressive with those offers if you're a rewards program member, because that you're getting a little bit and you can market to them. And the marketing value of that is huge. So that's just an idea that I have for a lot of people, is gate some of your discounting behind loyalty so that the business gets some value from it.
And that plays into the jumbo slice. That same thinking plays into the jumbo slice program.
So you guys built a subscription program for Panera, so that they've had a really successful, unlimited sips, I think they call it now, or whatever their drink thing is. And we did the same thing for lunch. And so what that's been able to do is teach people that we have a quick lunch option. And then people that are our heavy users, spend $19.65 a month and get a free slice every day for lunch, Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week. And they can pop in when it's convenient for them, grab a slice of pizza, and they're off on their way. And so we're creating that. What I love about subscriptions, it creates that habitual habit of walking through our door, right? And so that being, it's probably invaluable to have someone say like, oh, I didn't know you had, think about a construction worker that has this pass and they're always like, oh, I got a free lunch today, wherever, and they look up on their app of where the nearest one is. I had no idea this one was here. And they're going and experiencing all of our stores and all of our people. And that it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. The subscription programs, I think, are fantastic, sort of rabbit hole to go down. I know Paytronix is about to put out an ebook of some latest subscription best practices and recent findings, but I think it's something that's creeping on the horizon of the restaurant industry, and Red Savoy Pizza is certainly a leader on that front. There aren't too many restaurants out there offering subscription programs. Now, I wanted to briefly touch on menu testing here, especially in light of you calling out the order with which those aspects of the ordering flow show up within the mobile app, because I think it's important for people to note just how intentional and calculated every aspect of the display within a restaurant's digital ordering UI is. And I think it's certainly something that the Paytronix data insights team focuses on is testing the efficiency of different menu layouts, different order flows, everything down to what picture of a slice of pizza might be shown on the app could impact the likelihood that a customer will put it into their basket size. So just on this slide, some options of menu layouts for a theoretical pizza place. And just to provide a clearer picture, some things that we like to test here are the order of the items, as I mentioned, the number of the items displayed, say, informed by just the frequency with which they end up being purchased, available modifiers, the ordering flow, apps, drinks, and mains, as well as the images of items. And we like to measure these through the number of views that the items get, the orders submitted, different subtotals, the conversion rate, the average time to order, and then we decide which is most effective. Reed, any thoughts here on just kind of the importance of dancing around in the menu with data at your back?
No, I think that, with the data team that we've been working with you guys on, is we've been able to increase, $9 more on an average ticket. And the problem is, for me and my team, we don't have we can't look through hundreds of thousands of lines and do all the aggregate data, but then you guys can and computers can, right? And so I'm not asking, Lee on your team to go and go line by line and look at all of our transactions, but when you put it into really smart computers, he would too, but though, when you do that on a really high level in computers, and then I don't believe in AI personally, but I think machine learning that can actually do predictive analytics based on hundreds of thousands of transactions, it's been effective. And if we can get that price from $9 to $9.50 to $9 to $9.20 over hundreds of thousands of transactions, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're drawing to a close, so I just wanted to take some time to look back at all the things that we've covered. I think had I to do this slide over again, I would have probably thrown in underwear time and dancing in one place. But this slide will do. Reed, do you want to take us through maybe some of your key takeaways on the Red Savoy Pizza digital ordering experience? And maybe I'll recap any I think worth adding in.
Yeah, I think number one is the customer specifically has a choice in how they want. If you don't want to call, think of, you're a busy parent with 2 kids at home and you're just I don't want to call with the kids in the background, and I want to be able to you got to meet the customer where they are, right? And that's allowed us an extensive tool to do that. But then the holistic piece of it, of being able to get rewards points, redeem your rewards, making it easy and seamless, and whether people are heavy users on the app or they want to order online, and just making it easy for them has been instrumental to our business. So, and there's a lot of players out there, in the space, but then not a lot of people can wrap it up in a bow and do it all. So one of the things that I talk about is you can get SaaS to death, software as a service. So you have a loyalty program, you have an online program, then you have your POS, and then you have your whatever. And you're at the end of the day, I've got a lot of subscriptions. But when you can bundle it under one roof, we know that they all talk to each other, and it's one support team, one, development team. Even though the development teams and the support teams are big, you have the relationships there, and that allows us to lean on the technology in order to then have our guest experience be amazing. It takes a lot of burden off our team and the public, when it's seamless. So that's kind of how we think of it, is how do we make it easier for our customers, to make it easier for our employees to then repeat and keep going.
Beautifully said, Reed. This has been such a fun time talking to you. I want to open up the floor to any questions. If anyone in the chat would like to submit a question, just enter it into the chat and I'll see it come through on my end.
I realized doing these things, I'm a hand talker.
Oh yeah, big time.
It
makes it more engaging.
I gotta get a fidget spinner or something.
Okay, well, we've got a couple of questions. How has Red Savoy's balanced the digital with the physical when it comes to the guest experience? And do you have any tips?
So, yes. So we have a marketing tool. I don't know if I have it in my office right now. I do. It's called Pull Tabs. Actually, right here. So we have these things called Pull Tabs. They're a big thing in Minnesota. You win prizes. It's kind of like a scratch off, but it's you buy them at bars and you try to win money. But what we do is we give you one of these with every pizza. So I'm going to open one live. And so you kind of click it open and you tear them away with a chance to win free pizza for a year. Right. And so what I think of is we want this tactile experience, so that it's our version of couponing, but you only get them when you buy a pizza, for incentivizing the next order. If you win free cheese bread or free wings or free pizza for a year, there's that chance. But the digital is how people want to interact with us, but we want that physical analog experience in the digital world. And so we use our other tools, not specifically for ordering, to have those guest experiences. Other things is when the people do choose to call us on the phone, thank you for calling Red Savoy Pizza in Edina, this is Reed, how are you today? And really like stopping the transaction and having those different experiences or the analog experiences in the digital world to enhance the guest experience is our goal.
Do you use 3PD at all? I believe you said, this is a question from the audience. I believe you said you do not like it, but I'm not sure if you still use them. If not, why turn away money?
Yep. Perfect answer. So we are piloting, well, we've signed a deal with DoorDash and we're launching that shortly in order to get that directory business, people that are looking at that. The prices on that have come down substantially. I remember them talking to us a couple of years ago, and this is the other tablet issue, right? Like, so you have 5 tablets in your restaurant, it's operationally difficult and operationally expensive. So, when they're originally, they were at like 30%, they wanted 30% commissions. That's insane, right? Like, we already have to give 2.5% or 3% to Visa and MasterCard and all the credit cards. And for someone that wants 30% of my business for an order is insane. And so now that their rates have come down, and partially that's that legislation in New York and California and all that stuff to keep those a little bit tempered, it's making it a little bit more palatable. And then, to be honest, we're raising our fees to the guest on those orders. And like, I don't love it. We're already a premium pizza and we're going to go more expensive. But if the guest chooses to pay for that, then we can. But and we also, like, it's got to integrate, right? Like, it's got to be easy for the team. And so we're working with the Paytronix team to do, to have it. It's a product called Handoff that hands off the order directly to our POS so that we don't have to have tablets. And so, the other thing is it's another vendor to manage and another process and another whatever. And when we're doing things at scale, all of our decision tree is it scalable? Is it profitable? Does it make sense at all locations and all that kind of stuff? And so then we find a partner that works with, and DoorDash seems to be the biggest player in the market.
Well, if you're not using third-party delivery, what are some of the major challenges you've encountered with delivery yourself?
Great question. So we are going to be using third-party delivery as a order source or order, right? But we are going to self-deliver. And the biggest issue with it is staffing, but our delivery drivers make $20 to $30 an hour on average. And so I think that that is unknown in the industry. So if people are doing DoorDash or Grubhub or Uber Eats and whatever, wanting to do that gig economy, like, you can work for us and make a really good money to deliver pizzas. And, that would be the hardest part, is just the constant staffing. But when we've had amazing drivers that have worked with us for years because they're doing really well financially and it's not a hard job. And but it's always just, everybody likes to eat in give or take 4.5 hours a day, 3.5 hours a day, right? So you have your peaks, 11:30 to 1, 11 to 12:30, and 5 to 7. And so a lot of our business, if you look at a normal, like a bell curve of when people eat, is staffing to those times. But we're not, our business is a little different. We're not open till 2 a.m. My wife's dad used to say nothing good happens after midnight. And so we close at most of our stores at 9 o'clock, and, we're hitting those key periods. And unless you're hitting fourth meal, AKA Taco Bell, there's no piece of being open. So we're becoming an employer of choice because we don't have those crazy hours.
Well, that about does it for our time today. I'd like to thank you both for being with us. Reed, Ryan, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Betty.
Thank you.
We'll catch you all next time. Thanks for being with us.